Virgo, they did it to themselves. That is the part that makes this reading almost impossible to deliver with a straight face. Not because what happened is not real or not worth addressing, but because the specific sequence of events that produced this situation, the particular way in which a person who had a problem with you managed to take that problem and amplify it and perform it and escalate it until everyone in the vicinity was no longer looking at you with the concern they were attempting to generate, but looking at them with the specific combination of discomfort and secondhand embarrassment that belongs to witnessing someone unravel in public. They engineered that outcome themselves. Nobody helped them. They got there entirely on their own and arrived at a destination that is not a good look for anyone. I want to start this reading not with an image and not with a spiritual frame, with a question. Have you ever watched someone be so consumed by their feelings about you that they lost the ability to see how they appeared to the people around them? That they became so focused on the object of their agitation that the agitation itself became the story rather than anything they were trying to say about you? Because that is what happened here. This person had a feeling about you, maybe a grievance, real or constructed, maybe an envy that they dressed up as something more justifiable, maybe a need to position you in a particular way relative to themselves that required your diminishment. Whatever its origin, the feeling was there, present, driving. And instead of managing it with even the minimum level of discretion that most adults apply to their less flattering emotions, they let it out, all of it, in front of people, and the people watched, and the people formed opinions, and the opinions were not about you. The first image that comes through in this reading has an energy I have genuinely not encountered before in this series. I see someone standing in the center of a room, and this person is talking with considerable energy, with the particular force of someone who has something they need everyone to understand, who needs the people around them to arrive at a specific conclusion, who is working very hard to generate a particular response in their audience, and the audience is not giving them the response they are working for. Not because the audience is hostile, not because anyone in the room has made a decision to oppose what is being said, but because what is being said, and more specifically, how it is being said, is producing information that was not part of the intended message. The intensity is too much. The frequency of the subject is too high. The quality of the emotion driving the delivery is too visible and too raw and too specifically disproportionate to anything that could reasonably justify it. And the people in the room, without consulting each other, without coordinating their response, are arriving at the same quiet, private, slightly uncomfortable conclusion. This is not about whatever they are saying it is about. This is about something else. This is about them. Let me describe the hyena energy specifically, because that word arrived in the title of this reading with a precision that deserves acknowledgement. A hyena is not subtle. A hyena does not lurk in dignified silence, waiting for the right moment, operating with the contained control of an apex predator who does not need to announce itself. A hyena makes noise. loud, unmistakable, look at me doing this noise. And the noise is not incidental, it is the thing. The sound is the strategy, the aggression is the performance, and the performance is supposed to be intimidating in its natural context. Perhaps it is. But in the context of your life, in the specific social environment in which this person has been performing their intensity about you, the sound landed differently than intended. Instead of intimidating, it revealed every escalation of the noise, every additional performance of the grievance, every new audience that was pulled into the display of how much they are bothered by you, added another data point to a picture that the audience was quietly, collectively building. A picture of someone whose reaction to you is so out of proportion to anything that could reasonably justify it that the only available explanation is not what they are claiming. The only available explanation is what they are feeling, which is not righteous grievance, which is not concerned observation, which is not anything that has a name that makes the person feeling it look good. I want to name what they are actually feeling. Because beneath the performance of the livid, beneath the noise and the escalation and the making themselves look crazy in front of anyone willing to watch, is something much simpler. They are threatened by you, not physically, in the way that a person feels threatened when they encounter someone who, by simply existing and being what they are, makes a particular kind of claim on the world that conflicts with the claim the threatened person has been making. You occupy space in a way they cannot match, not aggressively, not with the deliberate intention of being more than anyone else in the room, simply by being what you are. By carrying the quality of presence that you carry, by moving through your life with the self-possession that is simply your natural register, you have produced in this person the specific and deeply uncomfortable experience of being in the presence of something they cannot diminish. They have tried. The trying was the performance, and the trying produced the hyena. Tell me something in the comments, and I genuinely want to know this. When this person's behavior reached you, when the information about what they were doing and saying came back to you through whatever channel it came back through, what was your first response? Not what you said, what you felt. Was it anger, hurt, or was there something else in there, something quieter, underneath those more available responses? Something that was almost, if you are honest about it, bewildering, not because you did not understand that someone could dislike you, but because the specific intensity of this person's response to you seemed so wildly disproportionate to whatever the actual relationship between you was, that you genuinely could not make the math work. That bewilderment is accurate information. The math does not work because the intensity is not generated by you. It is generated by what you represent to them. And what you represent is the specific, concrete, every time they look at you, evidence that certain things they have been telling themselves about themselves are not true. Tell me in the comments if this landing makes sense to you. I see a second image now, and it has a quality that is almost absurd in its accuracy. I see a mirror being used as a weapon, not successfully. Someone picking up a mirror and attempting to swing it in your direction with the intention of damaging you. And the mirror, by its nature, by the simple physics of what mirrors do, reflecting everything it encounters directly back at the person holding it. Every accusation reflected every performance of your alleged failings, reflected every attempt to make the people watching understand something unflattering about you, reflected back to the person who was holding the mirror, back to the face that was making the performance, back to the quality of the emotion driving the whole display. And what the reflection showed the audience was not what the person wielding the mirror intended to show. What it showed was someone who was very, very bothered by someone they were hoping could be made to look small. And there is a particular kind of social failure embedded in that combination, in the visible discrepancy between the diminishment someone is attempting and the intensity of the emotion they are feeling while attempting it. Because if the person you are trying to diminish were actually small, you would not need this much force to make the point. You would not need the escalation. You would not need every available audience. You would not need the hyena volume. Small things do not require this much effort to diminish. Only things with genuine size do, and everybody in the room understands that. I want to speak about something that I find genuinely interesting in this energy. The people watching, because they are the silent protagonists of this story and they deserve their moment in the reading. They came to witness what this person was presenting, and they are leaving with something entirely different from what they were supposed to leave with. They were supposed to leave with a revised understanding of you, with the specific narrative about you that this person was working so hard to install, with whatever impression of your character or your conduct or your worth was the intended destination of all that escalation and noise. Instead, they are leaving with a revised understanding of the person doing the presenting. Not all of them will say this out loud. Not all of them will pull aside the person doing the performing and say, I need you to hear how this is landing. Most of them will do what people do when they witness something that makes them privately uncomfortable on behalf of everyone involved. They will go quiet. They will redirect the conversation when the subject of you comes up. They will find reasons to be somewhere else when the performance restarts. And internally, in the privacy of their own assessment, they will have logged what they saw. And what they saw was not what they were meant to see. The third image arrives, and it is the most final image in this reading. I see something burning itself out, not dramatically, not with a great flare of conclusion, with the particular inevitable physics of something that has been running on a fuel that was always going to run out. That generated a lot of heat and a lot of light and a lot of noise. While the fuel lasted, that produced in its burning a spectacle that drew attention, as fire does, and is now reduced to the specific and somewhat sad remnant of something that spent everything it had on an enterprise that did not achieve its intended outcome. This is where the performance of LIVID ends, not with a resolution, not with the person arriving at any kind of peace or insight or genuine reckoning with what their behavior was actually about, with depletion, with the particular exhaustion of someone who has been running at unsustainable intensity and whose body and social capital and available audience have all, in their various ways, reached the limit of what they can sustain. The hyena has tired itself out. The noise is going to get quieter. not because anything was resolved, because nothing can sustain that level of output indefinitely. And when the noise quiets, what remains is the record. What everyone saw, what everyone quietly, privately, without coordinating with each other, understood. I want to say something now about you, Virgo, about what your role has been in all of this, because you have been, throughout the entire performance, the apparent subject of a story that was never actually about you. And that position of being the named subject of something you did not cause and could not control and were not invited to participate in has its own specific texture that I want to acknowledge. It is exhausting in a particular way. The exhaustion of having your name in someone's mouth in a context you did not create, of knowing that versions of you are being circulated that bear no real relationship to the actual you, of having to exist in the same social geography as a performance that is using you as its material without your consent. That exhaustion is real, and you have been carrying it with more dignity than the situation had any right to expect from you. Because the graceful response to someone making themselves look like a jealous hyena on your behalf is exactly what you have been doing. Nothing. Not defensive nothing. Not the nothing of someone who is suppressing the urge to respond and finding it difficult. The nothing of someone who understood, probably before anyone else in the situation did, that the most devastating possible response to this kind of performance is the complete withdrawal of the attention it was designed to provoke. You did not give them the reaction. You did not escalate. You did not enter the performance as an actor. You remained the audience with the composed, slightly baffled quality of someone watching something they did not expect and that they cannot quite categorize. And that composure, that refusal to meet the hyena energy with anything it could use, has been more powerful than any response you could have crafted. Here is what I want you to take from this reading. Not the satisfaction of someone being exposed, though that is real and present and you are allowed to feel it. Not the vindication of having been right about the nature of someone's feeling toward you, though that is also real. The thing I want you to take is simpler. A person who is that livid about you, who is performing that level of intensity, who has made themselves look like what they have made themselves look like in front of people they were trying to influence on their own behalf, is not someone who has power over you, is not someone who is in a position to determine how you are perceived by anyone with functioning perception, is not someone whose opinion of you is relevant to the quality of your life or the accuracy of your understanding of your own worth, is not someone you need to address, respond to, defend yourself against, or expend a single additional calorie of your energy on. They have handled themselves thoroughly, publicly, in front of witnesses, and the witnesses have formed their own conclusions. Your job, the only job that was ever yours in this situation, is to continue being so completely and undeniably yourself that the contrast between the performance and the reality does all the work. It already is doing all the work. It has been doing all the work. You just had to exist. And exist you have, impeccably, while they ran the noise. And the noise said everything that needed to be said about them, not about you, never about you.